name's William.
And we're doing the Mexican-American immigration of 1940s and 1960s.
This is a map of where relatives have migrated from and where they ended up. My grandmother came from Guadalajara, Jalisco, and she came to Pacoima, California.
And my grandpa came from Jerez, Zacatecas and migrated to North Hollywood.
The major push factors for immigrants from this country of origin. A lot of the push factors came from violent politics resulting from the Mexican Revolution during this time. It lasted between the 1910 to around the 2000s. There was an unstable economy. My grandmother experienced a lot of poverty, and whenever she was in another relationship, she took on that person's debt as well. Employment was scarce. There was mainly just farmers, and when you would work in the hospital, you would get below minimum wage. And another push factor was because a lot of your family was also migrating to the United States.
A major pull factor in the United States was the land economic opportunities from the BESIDO programs. Another one is the government support, for example, the Social Security's tax refund, healthcare, for example. My grandpa migrated over here when he was 19 years old, and it was like really difficult for him because he was discriminated by many American people because he didn't speak that good English. Now he knew it was Spanish.
And this is a picture of a couple of Mexican immigrants who came over because of the BESIDO program. It was during the wartime when there was a shortage of labor because most of the United States men were overseas or they were in the military. So the United States and Mexico worked out a deal called the BESIDO program, which allowed immigrants to come over and help with agriculture and other crops.
The U.S. immigration law infected during that time of the period from the 1940s to 1960s. In 1942, the United States made a temporary intergovernmental agreement for the use of Mexican agricultural labor on the United States farms, and that was the BESIDO program. Another one was the United States government immigration policy and the laws changed according to the situations and important events such as the World War II, the Korean War, and Operation Wetbacks, and the fight against communism and the Civil War. And what sector of the United States economic were immigrants from this country of origin? It was the BESIDO program from 1943 to 1965 encouraged Mexican guest workers to take jobs in the United States, and Mexicans immigration rapidly was being increased. In 1943, the BESIDO program brought 5 million temporary Mexican laborers to work in the United States farms and also on the railroads during and after the World War II. The temporary BESIDO program was lasted for about 22 years, and the farm wages dropped sharply. Another one was the non-citizens were already inside the United States were able to obtain what is called an LPR status through a process which were known as adjustment of status. Once that person was obtained an immigrant visa, and he or she came to the United States, they have became a lawful permanent resident. Lawful permanent is a foreign national who are permitted to work, live lawfully and permanently in the United States.
Anti-immigrant sentiment and immigrant community response. In 1954, I forgot which president it was, and they had initiated Operation Wetback. And basically Operation Wetback was like a major deportation of Mexican immigrants. It's kind of like what's going on today with Trump. So my grandmother would tell me how she would live in fear and isolation because she would be too scared to walk out on the streets in fear that she was going to be deported or caught. And she didn't know very well English when she first got here, so it was a dead giveaway if she was speaking Spanish. But she told me what was on her side was that she was very fair-skinned and she had light eyes and she could pass as white in the neighborhood. A response of the Latino community was creating tight social circles where they could trust each other as a support group because they also had immigrated to the United States. there was a lot of discrimination that my grandmother, when she would walk in the store and she would try and ask where a certain item was, they refused to talk to her. And when, so she decided to help, decided to ask a neighbor for help, and the neighbor had taken her to the store, and the neighbor had translated everything for her in order for her to work her way around. And then this is a picture of the holding cell during Operation Wetback in the late 1950s. And it looks very familiar to what's being used today to hold a lot of the kids. And then that's it.
Great.
Thank you.
Is this his phone? Okay.
Okay, how are we doing with time? Oh, we still have. Mexico 1980s.